Hi, I'm Mrs. Slater, and just a quote from Ferris Bueller himself. The question isn't what are we going to do, but rather what aren't we going to do? Okay, so today we have distance formula and midpoint formula. Hopefully that is something that you are remembering at this moment right now. If not, here is the formula. Go ahead and write that down. Push pause if you need to. And then here's the midpoint formula. Go ahead and push pause and write that down as well. Okay, and then all answers we're going to do today are going to be in simplified radical form. So keep that in mind when we get the answers at the end. So finding the distance and midpoint. So I would start way to the left and write down the distance formula just to make sure you have enough room. So we have the distance equals, and this was going to be our first, that's our first order pair, so that's why they have sub 1. This is our second order pair, so that's why both of those are going to be subscript 2. And if we plug it into the formula, it would be x1 minus x2 squared plus y1, which is 3 minus a negative 7, which squared. All right, and then go ahead and figure out what that is. Negative 7 squared, which is 49. That's going to be 10 squared, which is 100. And so then you have a square root of 149. And unfortunately, that does not break down, so that is going to be simplified radical form. Now, for the midpoint of the exact same thing, we'll put that in a different color here. Okay, everything's over 2. And we're going to take the x's and add them this time, and the y's and add them this time. So negative 3 over 2, comma, negative 4 over 2 gives you a final answer of negative 3 halves, comma, negative 2. So that's going to be the midpoint, which we're going to have to use in future problems. Okay, so then the next one for distance formula, I want you to go ahead and push pause, and I want you to work it, and then when you come back, it's all going to be ready there for you. All right, so hopefully you got the distance equals the square root of 98, and then simplify radical form would be 7 radical 2. And then the midpoint formula, after plugging them in and dividing by 2, you are getting improper fractions, which is fine. You can leave them like that, or you can do decimal. As long as you get the exact answer, you're fine. All right, so that's the midpoint. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the standard form of a circle. And in the standard form, you would write it as this. X minus h squared and y minus k squared equals r squared. So you may be familiar with this a little bit, but write that down, pause it, write that down. And we're going to find the equation with the center and the radius given. So this center point is going to be the h and the k that you see in the standard form. R, as it says, is the radius. Okay, so then x minus 5 squared plus y minus a negative 2 squared equals square root of 3 squared. And after cleaning that up, first thing we don't have to do much with, but this one we want to make it y plus 2 squared, and then the square root of 3 squared is just itself. So there is the equation for the circle. Okay, go ahead and push pause and do the next two. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the next one, x plus 3 squared. You can always start doing the shortcuts if you like. Y minus 7 squared equals 25. So if you got that answer, fabulous. And then on the next one here, we are with x plus, because it's going to be minus a negative, and then y plus, because it's minus a negative again. And this one's a little trickier because you have two things to do. You have to square the 2 to get 4, square the radical 7 to get 7. So that means the final part would be 28. Okay, now let's look at the opposite direction. Since there's nothing in both of the parentheses here, that means the center point is going to be at 0, 0. And the radius is the square root of this number. So you have the square root of 7. Okay, go ahead and push pause and try this one. If you have the center as negative 1 and 3, you are correct. And if you took the square root of 4 to get an answer of 2, you are correct there as well. Okay, same thing. Push pause, see if you can get the answer. So you get 0, 3, and then the radius is the square root of 1 over 36, which the square root of 1 is 1, the square root of 36 is 6. Okay, and then the example number 9, 4 comma 0. And the square root of 24 is going to be the radius, and we should put everything in simplified radical form. And 4 goes into it, so it'd be 2 radical 6. Center point, and I like to put a C in front of it just to clarify that that is the center point. All right, let's go ahead and end there, and then refer to the front of the packet. And you should see a little cone, and if you slice it, that's where the circle comes from. So I'm going to conclude our lesson today, short and sweet, and good job today.